hope you're having a damn great day. Welcome back to the channel. If you are new, please hit that subscribe button, hit the like button while you're there too. And I mean, if you aren't new, well, hit the like button. Please show some support and love for the channel. And in today's episode of Tactics, we'll be breaking down Jurgen Klopp's 4-3-3 formation, looking for ways to try and implement and recreate his set of instructions in the game EA FC 24. So, we'll start off with the team going forward. We've got Diaz, Nunez, Salah, Szoboszlai, McAllister, and of course Jones, Robertson, Van Dijk, Konate, Trent Alexander-Arnold, and then between the sticks we've got Alisson. On the bench we've got Jota, Gakpo, Gravenberch, Endo, Kelleher, Matip, and Gomez. And then in the reserves we've got a few talented individuals. We've got Harvey Elliott, Thiago, Doak, I think that's how you pronounce it. Apparently Liverpool fans love this kid, and I mean, I haven't seen much of him, but I'll take their word for it. We've got Tsimikas as well, and then a few other individuals like Kwanzaa and Bajcetic, who are also very young and talented, and then yeah, a few others I don't care to mention. So with the formation going forward, it's just a base 4-3-3. I've made no real alterations to it. It's got one goalkeeper, two centre backs, two full backs, one DM, two central midfielders, one centre forward, and two wingers. So with the tactical breakdown, I've gone with the tactical vision to be gegenpressing. Now that goes hand in hand with Liverpool. It's a very realistic style that Jurgen Klopp implemented all those years ago, and what goes hand in hand with gegenpressing is pressing after loss of possession, that counter press that they look to implement, try and squeeze the back line at times, try and force them into mistakes, have them create their own errors and quickly transition into their own attacks from there on out. As for the team width, it's a nice compact 40, but it can look to flare out just a bit more in order to break down the opposition's passing lanes, cut out specific passes, run at specific players, and then try and create your goal scoring opportunities from there. As for the depth, it is set to 80. It's a nice high line, helping Liverpool in and out of possession at times, helping them create more for the offensive line going forward, and it also helps with the back line as well. So as for the offense, the build-up play is set to having a fast-paced build-up. We do know that Jurgen Klopp's team, they like to run as fast as possible, transitioning more times than not very quickly from back to front. So that's why I've gone with that approach, and it does go hand in hand with the rock and roll style of football that Liverpool look to try and implement more times than not. And I will say, with the revamped midfield, the younger tone to the squad, you could say, they can do that more effectively now. As for the chance creation though, I've set it to direct passing. That does go hand in hand with the gegenpressing system as well. You want to be direct, you want to get the ball into the likes of Mohamed Salah or your forward line more times than not, have them running at the opposition, creating chances, creating holes in the opposition's defense to try and exploit as well. So 4 players in the box, I have set it to 8. More times than not, you want Darwin Nunez or Mohamed Salah and so on to have as much support around them, which is why we're trying to flood the box with as many players as possible. You want to try and supply Trent Alexander-Arnold or potentially Andy Robertson with players or targets to hit in the attacking area. For corners and free kicks, as per always, it is set to 4. So starting off with the instructions for Alisson, he is set to be a sweeper keeper and come for crosses. It goes without saying, Alisson is one of the best sweeper keepers in the world, one of the best goalkeepers in the world, and in my opinion, he is the best goalkeeper in the world. So I've set him to come for crosses, very good with claiming the ball in the air, whether it's whipped in from a corner, a cross, a free kick, however you want to put it, he's claiming it, as well as he's very gifted with the ball at his feet, finding those amazing looping balls over to Salah in transition, or potentially just spraying it out wide, calm, collected to your fullbacks or even into the midfield at times. So that's why I am justified for setting these set of instructions to Alisson. Moving on to Konate and Van Dijk, they're set to their base set of instructions, keeping a nice compact brick wall in front of Alisson at times. And then moving on out wide to our fullbacks. With your fullbacks, they are the chief creators in this system. You want them creating from either flank, whipping in those crosses, supplying the forward line at times, which is why I've gone with this set of instructions. They are very similar, but slight variations to it. With Trent, he is set to join the attack as well as overlap. You want him getting forward, you want him advancing forward, creating from the wide right position. I haven't really seen him invert as much into the midfield this season as much as what he did last season, so I think maybe Klopp doesn't really like that for Trent. He sees him more as a wide playmaker as such, so that's why I've gone with this set of instructions, as well as stick to position. You need him to not be as aggressive towards his opponents and try and keep his position on the field, make sure he's not exploited or exposed at times. Whereas with the likes of Robertson, he's got the same set of instructions, join the attack and overlap. You want him doing that, but he has a bit more of an aggressive tendency towards his opponents, and he's very good at just getting under the skin of his opponents at times. And in order to replicate and recreate that, I've gone with him to be able to step up, be a bit more aggressive, and show that aggression to the opponent's front line at times. Moving on into the midfield though, we've got McAllister, a very different role for him. I don't really like him personally. I don't like him in the holding role, but he does have a very fluid role, you could say, changing with Jones at times and so on. So he's set to cut past lanes, having a bit more of a balanced attack. So you do see him get forward a lot more. He doesn't just sit and hold that back line and try and shield that back line at times. He does advance forward, trying to join up with the attack and add another layer to the attacking side of Liverpool's attack. As well as normal interceptions are set to go. You don't want to overexert him and lose stamina and all that, because it doesn't work out for him in the end. And then he needs to be the deep line playmaker. He can supply those long balls into the forward line, or trying to exploit the opposition's back line at times with the balls over the top into the pacey Salah or the Diaz's or the potential Darwin Nunez's as well. He wants him to be able to play those long balls in behind to try and exploit the opposition. Cover the wing is also set here, so he will sometimes look to slot in for either Trent or Robertson, depending on either or if they've bombed on too far forward. Moving on into the midfield though, further on into the midfield, we've got Jones. He will have a bit more of a fluid role as well, exchanging and interchanging positions at times with McAllister. He is set to stay back while attacking, so he will have a bit more defensive discipline at times, won't always adventure too far forward. Stay on the edge of the box is essential. The build-up play for Liverpool this season has been very much transformed, considering what it was last season. Last season, like, the midfield looked like it had no legs, whereas this season there's a lot more passing, triangles, a lot more build-up play, a lot more quick movement in and around the box, and that's what you're trying to replicate and recreate with stay on the edge of the box with your midfielders. All your midfielders will look to try and be as involved in the attacking play as possible. Aggressive interceptions are said to be on with that gegen-pressing system, the counter-pressing system. You do need an aggressive front line, or essentially an aggressive front five at times, trying to win the ball back nice and high up the field as possible. And then he's set to cover the wing and free roam. You want him popping up in those little pockets of space, trying to operate in those half spaces, creating space for the forward line more times than not. And then we'll move over to Szoboszlai. He's set to get forward. So what I've noted with him is he will be the furthest forward in the midfield, but he does also look to sometimes play a bit deeper. I have seen Klopp play him in the McAllister role. So there's no real, you are the attacking midfielder, you are the DM. It's one moment you can be the attacking midfielder, and another moment you can be the defensive midfielder. It's completely fluid. So I kind of like that and appreciate that at times. But when you're trying to replicate tactics, it's very, very difficult. So I have him set to stay forward and get forward as much as possible. He's going to be the furthest at times, trying to be the chief playmaker in the midfield at times, linking up with Trent, trying to supply the forward line as much as possible. He is also set to stay on the edge of the box. We've seen him score some bangers from outside the area, and oh my, he can hit that ball beautifully. Aggressive interceptions are set to be on. You want him to try and help win that ball back nice and high up the field. Cover the wing, so he will look to also try and slot in where he can, trying to cover Trent more times than not, and he is going to try and drift wide, drifting into that wider right region, linking up very nicely with Salah, and potentially being on the edge of the box for any loose balls to try and whip in, and for a cross, or potentially fire off a shot of his own. So moving on into our forward line, we'll start off with Darwin Nunez. I've set him to drift wide. He doesn't really have a central role at the moment to take up that centre forward attacking role, where he's going to always be in the centre of the box waiting for the crosses. He will sometimes be on the back post, sometimes he'll be on the front post, so it's not really a central role for him, which is why I've gone with the drift wide. He is, though, going to try and exploit the back line, getting in behind. All of Klopp's forwards will look to try and, stay on the edge of the opposition's back line at times, looking to make those runs in behind. And with the direct passing also set to be on, you do want them to make those advancing runs in behind. Aggressive interceptions are set to be on. You want him pressing that back line, starting from the front, and then stay forward. He is going to try and link up play very nicely with either the Salahs or the Diaz's of this world, and try and be as involved with the attacking play as possible. Then moving out to the left-hand side, Diaz, he's set to come back on defense, always trying to help out where he can. Staying wide is essential for the system to work. You're trying to create space for Nunez, who does look to try and drift into those wider regions. And then getting in behind, like I said, with the forward line, they will look to try and play on the edge of the opponent's back line at times, creating that space and those opportunities in behind for themselves. And then aggressive interceptions are set to be on, and they also need to be in the box for those crosses that are inevitably going to be fizzed in, either from a Salah or a Trent or Andy Robertson or so on. And then finally, we have got Mohamed Salah. He's set to having a basic defensive support. He won't always look to come back and help the likes of Trent, But what this does is it does allow you to have two players forward, the likes of Darwin Nunez and Mohamed Salah, waiting for those long balls, either from a Trent or an Alisson, just to hit those long balls forward, and then they can quickly transition into attack. As for his chance creation, I have him set to stay wide. You've seen over like the last season or so, especially last season, he transitioned from that inside forward into that attacking wide player, where he'll look to start his attacks up wide and then come inside, whether it's creating chances or potentially scoring goals himself. He will look to do that from the wider regions of the field. And then in terms of his support on crosses, he is set to having a balanced support. You don't really want him just getting in behind all the time, or potentially coming short, or potentially being a target man. You want him to have an array of dynamic talents and approach to the game. You want him to, yes, get him behind, but sometimes you want him to link up play with Darwin Nunez and maybe take up a bit more of a central role, which is why I have him set to a balanced support. Aggressive interceptions are set to be on, and then as well as getting into the box. So some other instructions, if you do have the likes of Endo and Gakpo in, we'll start with Endo. His instructions are different to what McAllister's are. He's set to cut past lanes. As per always, you're trying to break up the opposition's offensive build-up, but he's set to stay back while attacking. You don't want him venturing like forward. In the minutes that I have seen him on the field, he literally looks to sit in front of the back four and move with them, trying to shield them as much as possible. Normal interceptions are set to be on, stick to position, and then cover the centre. You don't want him drifting left or right into either fullback position. You want him literally sitting in front of the likes of Van Dijk and Konate, shielding them at times, trying to mop up in front of them as much as he can. And then for Gakpo, a very different role that he has compared to the likes of Darwin Nunez. He will look to have a bit more of a balance with, so sometimes he'll drift out wide, or more times than not, he will look to stay central and have those balls whipped into him. He will look to try and be a false nine at times, dropping slightly deeper off the back line, drawing out the back line at times, and trying to get on the ball as much as possible, and then try and dribble or run at the opposition centre backs at times. Aggressive interceptions are set to be on, as per always, and then come back on defence, like I say, dropping off, pulling certain players out of position, creating loads of space for the McAllisters or potentially the Szoboszlais, or even your Mohamed Salahs and your Diaz's of the front line as well. So yes, my dudes, that is my version of Jurgen Klopp's 4-3-3 system in EAFC 24. I hope you have enjoyed this video. If you have, hit that like button, please. That would be absolutely phenomenal. And as per always, I hope you have a damn great day. I'm out.